chapter of the Chicago-based international women's group Zonta International.
In a few hours' time, about 3.5 hours' time, the global event of the World Press Freedom Day will take place in Tunisia, a country where, you know, social media, mobile and satellite television stage a regime change, and which led to a grand-scale social and political transformation. In 2006, the World Press Freedom Day global event was held in Sri Lanka. And you and I, we were panelists, just like this, at the global event. Well, the topic at that time was a very simply, I would say, an oversimplification of what was then looked as a global crisis. That's poverty alleviation. And from that point, today we have come to a much bigger theme, which is the 2012 World Press Freedom Day theme is New Voices in Media Freedom, Helping to Transform Societies. My personal view is when I saw the topic and when I thought about what happened 6 years ago, when we spoke about poverty alleviation, we were talking about inequality in distribution, inequality in opportunities. And even though we are talking about new voices today and about social media, television, mobile text messages, and everybody, all these fronts had gotten up to fight against what you call discrimination, which also boils down to inequality.
On this day, which is supposed to be World Press Freedom Day, well, it's with a good reason. As Mr. Furkan said, we have a lot of problems in local media. There's no question about it. Perpetrators of kidnappings, abductions have to be brought to justice, sure. And the fact is that our institutions are broken down, not only in the media, but our civic institutions are broken down, and there is no civic accountability. And without a vibrant free press, we cannot do it. We cannot bring these institutions to account. But what is necessary is a credible free press. And this is why I underscore the fact that the only way that we can have a credible free press is that the free press looks inward first. We are not going to have a media that's going to lie. And it means that we don't want the kind of Tunisia, Yemen kind of regime change because, you know, it has been quote-unquote sexed up. We don't want it because, you know, it's the in thing. So I think my time is up, and I think we'll have more opportunity to talk about this as the sessions go on.
Thank you, Rajpal. Today we have an interesting person with us, a celebrated foreign news analyst in Sri Lanka who also worked as UN spokesman in Colombo, and who is also, interestingly, today he's the reluctant chairman of the Sri Lanka Rupavahani Corporation.
It was in 1923, the world-famous Time magazine was started by two persons, Henry Lewis and Britain Haddon. Henry Lewis was the chief man. As we all know, Time magazine became very popular in almost all the countries. So at one point, Henry Lewis said, I am a Protestant, I am a Republican, I am a free enterprise. So I am biased in favor of God, I am biased in favor of Eisenhower, I am biased in favor of my shareholders. That is the true nature of the media freedom and free media in the present day world. Another example. On 17 November 2005, that was the day when the present president was first elected as president of this country. On that day, early morning, I accessed BBC website. There was an item on the BBC website about Sri Lanka's presidential election. The headline said, Sri Lankans are tired of crucial polls. Sri Lankans are tired of crucial polls. Then the text begins with a quotation. I'm not going to what? I'm fed up. The quotation is from a petty merchant. So what was the impression, the idea that BBC wanted to convey to the outside world? In my view, the idea was to tell the outside world, Sri Lankans are tired of this presidential election. At the end of the day, what happened? What was the voter turnout? It was 72%. To my knowledge, it's a very good voter turnout. So did BBC ever corrected its report? Never. New York Times editorial said, the ousting of Hugo Chavez is a victory for democracy in Latin America. So for New York Times, the world's most prestigious newspaper, ousting of an elected leader is a victory for democracy in the particular region. So what is the solution? This is the problem. I don't think that one man can give a complete answer. There has to be a discussion. In my view, as long as media remains a profit-making enterprise, there is no such freedom that people can enjoy. But we cannot change that social system, hierarchically structured social system. We need to have a long debate and self-criticism among ourselves.
Just as much as our interest is there about new media and all that, I think we have to talk about the media freedom globally, but also regionally as well, because culturally, I mean, there are more or less similar cultures we have in this part of the region, and what really went wrong for Sri Lanka and why we are in this position today.
There has been an interesting emphasis on new media, or the electronic media, the internet media. Ironically, the bulk of the panel, except perhaps from Mohan, are creatures of professionals of the print media, which is for me an interesting counterpoint. Sadly, to me, it's probably the last stand of the print media, because I am of the view that print media is a dying industry at a global level, although in South Asia it is still an expanding industry, and in several parts of the developing world, because of the expansion of literacy and increasing affluence, people are beginning to be consumers of the print media. Yes, that's in some of the developing world. This transformation is, in my view, of extreme significance in the evolution of social communication in human society. The evolution of the print media itself was an important, very significant step in itself. It was the arrival of mass media, mass communication media, which saw the formation of far more homogenized societies, becoming eventually nations and nation states. As one of the best known analysts of ideas and communications, Benedict Anderson calls it, it's the development of print capitalism. And the previous two speakers, Ms. Mohan was quite right to emphasize that the media industry is very much an industry. However, the point I'm trying to arrive at is that the industry is now changing in a very drastic way, and so is the profession, and so is our conception of something called the media. If mass communication and social communication evolves in the way it is going right now in the internet, it will be difficult for us to hold up an institution called the media and hold it accountable to certain currently existing professional standards. The media has been at one time called, it was a feudal term, the fourth estate at one time, precisely because it was feudally recognized as a source of power. It was a source of power because it was a huge industry, it had huge installations, it has huge capital, and it had huge capacity to take over messages and distribute it on a mass scale to a mass audience and create a certain simultaneous mass receptivity across the nation or across the society or across the globe. That mass production type of mass communication is changing drastically today with the internet media. But at the time of this mass production, necessarily so, there had to be standards of production, right? So we had a thing called, and we have something called the profession of journalism. And we have the claim still existing that the media industry, provides a service to society by providing the public with the facts. And the public depends on the media for the facts and then takes decisions on how they run themselves in whatever society they would like to call themselves, democratic or socialist or whatever. Today, we are looking at industry which is no longer a monolithic kind of industry, but segmenting in a myriad ways, precisely because the nature of the industry has changed. We are no longer looking at, in the new media, we are no longer looking at major, long-standing institutions of mass media enterprises, like the Sunday Observer, for example, or the Sunday Times, or the New York Times, some of them more than 100 years old. The new media comes and goes and changes and is operated in some senses by everyone. That is, everyone with access to the new media. That itself is a very important qualifying thing in the